Have you ever felt like, no matter how much you gave, it was never enough? Or maybe every time you tried to stand up for yourself, somehow the story got twisted, and you ended up being the one who felt guilty. These are not random events. They are calculated emotional traps, and they often come from someone who knows exactly how to pull your strings. This video will take you deep into the manipulative world of a narcissistic woman and the specific behaviors she uses to keep control. By the end, you'll recognize 6 of the most common and destructive tactics designed to make you doubt yourself, shrink your confidence, and keep you stuck in a toxic cycle. Before we dive in, let's pause for a moment. If you've experienced any of this, know that you are not alone. There's nothing wrong with you for falling into these traps. Narcissistic manipulation is like a carefully woven web, one that even the strongest, smartest, and kindest people can get caught in. And if you're looking for a place where these behaviors are broken down with clarity, heart, and real examples, Emotional Soulmate is a channel dedicated to exposing narcissistic abuse and helping survivors heal. And stay until the end of this video, because every tactic we'll uncover will not only reveal what's happening behind the curtain, but also give you the tools to start breaking free. 1. Guilt is a chain. A narcissistic woman knows that guilt can weigh more than any physical burden. When she uses guilt, it isn't about fairness or honesty. It's about control. She twists memories, sacrifices, or favors into proof that you owe her a debt you can never repay. Even the smallest refusal from you is framed as a betrayal. The damage runs deeper than the moment itself. Over time, guilt conditions you to anticipate her disappointment. You replay past moments, convincing yourself you should have done more. This is how guilt becomes a chain, binding you not just to her expectations, but to a constant state of self-blame. It strips you of joy because every action feels shadowed by the fear of letting her down. This tactic works so effectively because guilt attacks a core part of human nature, the need to feel good, decent, and loving. She knows you care, and she weaponizes that care against you. 2. Turning others into weapons. Conflict should be resolved between 2 people, but for a narcissistic woman, the battlefield is never private. She thrives on dragging outsiders into the war. Friends, family, even distant acquaintances become her proof, her army, her chorus of validation. You suddenly hear that others agree you are unreasonable, selfish, or flawed. The words may not even come directly from their mouths. They come filtered through her retelling, carefully twisted to cut deep. In the process, you no longer feel like you are dealing with just her. You are up against a crowd that she controls. This triangulation feeds her sense of power. By pulling others in, she isolates you from allies and leaves you surrounded by echoes of her perspective. The manipulation doesn't just affect how you see her, it changes how you see yourself, making you question if everyone else secretly sees the same flaws she points out. 3. The slow erosion of criticism. Criticism in healthy relationships helps people grow. But in the hands of a narcissistic woman, criticism is not about growth. It is about erosion. She chips away piece by piece, turning every small imperfection into evidence of your inadequacy. It may start subtly, a remark about your appearance, a suggestion about how you speak, a mocking comment about your work. But these moments accumulate, sinking into your subconscious. Soon, you find yourself rehearsing words before speaking, double-checking actions, obsessing over details, all in the hope of avoiding her disapproval. This erosion creates a new version of you, smaller, quieter, and increasingly dependent on her for a sense of worth. She positions herself as the judge of your value, and because the criticisms never end, your pursuit of her approval becomes endless. It is not one insult that breaks you. It is the steady drip of disapproval, the constant message that you are never quite enough, that wears you down until her voice replaces your own inner voice. 4. Explosions. That silence. When you bring up concerns, when you try to set boundaries, the response is not dialogue. It is detonation. Anger, tears, shouting. Whatever form it takes, the purpose is the same: to overwhelm and silence. This tactic is not about the content of the conflict. It is about teaching you a lesson. Your voice is dangerous. Each explosion leaves behind a residue of fear. You begin to anticipate her reaction, to measure every word, to swallow concerns before they even leave your lips. Over time, these explosions reshape your behavior. The silence is not chosen, it is forced. What makes this tactic especially devastating is its unpredictability. You never know which word or which moment will set off the storm. So you live in constant tension, always bracing for the next eruption. This is emotional intimidation disguised as passion. It turns the simple act of communication into a minefield, where the safest choice always seems to be silence. 5. Attacking your reputation. One of the most insidious tactics is the destruction of your image in the eyes of others. A narcissistic woman knows that identity is not just how you see yourself. It is also how the world sees you. By spreading rumors, twisting stories, or highlighting your weaknesses to others, she attacks your foundation of social trust. Suddenly, people treat you differently. Friends become distant. Colleagues hesitate. Family members look at you with suspicion. And because she often frames herself as the victim or the truth teller, her narrative feels convincing. The damage here is not only external. Once your reputation is scarred, you begin to internalize the isolation. You feel misunderstood, alone, and desperate for someone to believe your side. Ironically, she then becomes the one person who remains close, but only because she orchestrated the isolation in the first place. This tactic leaves deep scars because it robs you of the natural support systems that would otherwise help you break free. It's not just an attack on your character, it's an attack on your lifelines. 6. Living in the shadow of comparison. Perhaps the cruelest cut comes from constant comparison. She measures you against others: an ex who supposedly loved better, a friend who supposedly succeeded more, a colleague who supposedly had more ambition. No matter how hard you try, you are always placed in someone else's shadow. This tactic is effective because it destabilizes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as unique and begin seeing yourself as a collection of shortcomings. Your energy shifts from growth and self-expression to competition and performance. You live not as yourself, but as an endless attempt to match impossible standards. The comparisons are not random. They are carefully chosen to hit your insecurities. She highlights exactly the areas where you feel most vulnerable and uses them to remind you of your supposed insufficiency. In this way, love becomes conditional. Affection becomes a prize you must earn by outshining invisible competitors. And because the standards are always moving, you are trapped in a cycle of striving without ever arriving. Closing thoughts. These 6 tactics: guilt as a chain, turning others into weapons, the slow erosion of criticism, explosions that silence, attacks on reputation, and the shadow of comparison are not random flaws in behavior. They are patterns. They are deliberate strategies that strip away self-worth and replace it with dependence. Seeing them clearly is painful, but also powerful. Once you name them, you no longer confuse them with love. You no longer mistake them for normal. And that awareness is the beginning of freedom. If you've ever felt trapped by these behaviors, let this be your reminder that you are stronger than the manipulation that tried to break you. Share your experiences, connect with others, and never forget, healing happens when silence ends. And as always, because YouTube's algorithm tends to favor videos with strong engagement, if you feel this video has brought you value, a simple like and a quick subscribe would mean so much. It not only helps this message reach more people who need it, but also ensures you will never miss the next video that could make a difference in your journey. Thanks all.